Okay, so I'm really going into a lot of detail. I've covered probably 9 months already though of this. But anyway, so you'll find out why I'm going into all this. This part is kind of long. But there you see all these details. Like there's this always a black cloud, stalkers, her boyfriend, her baby daddy, I mean DMT, magic, all this shit. Like it's just like totally weird. Stalking, everything, the whole thing. And then like her tattoos and just like you can see how all those years of abuse with that guy had just totally fucking fucked her up, man. Like it was crazy. So she is like healing. I am like healing her. Like Morpheus healed Neo in the movie The Matrix. Like I am like going out of my way to unplug this bitch and fucking start the process of healing her. I am doing everything for her. She is completely hopeless and it has been forced to put her trust in me because there is nothing and no one else. And I'm fucking like going through the grueling process of unplugging this bitch, right? It's my Nebuchadnezzar. She's in my Nebuchadnezzar. I'm putting all the electrodes on her and fucking she's like asking me, am I dead? And I'm saying, far from it, And she's like, why do my eyes hurt? And I'm like, cause you've never used them before, like the whole fucking thing. I'm unplugging this chick, and she ends up being a Judas, a total Judas, like a Cypher from the movie The Matrix, when he turns on Morpheus. And anyways, so I'm like going through all this process of healing her. Okay, so then I tell her that the cops told us that we need to get a restraining order against him. So that's the next thing. So then this whole long process of getting a restraining order against him. Now, when we got treated differently, because he ended up trying to get a restraining order against us. So in order to get a restraining order, you have to have him served papers. And so there's a process. You have to fill out all this paperwork. And so when we went through the process, he was also going through the process unbeknownst to us. Now, when we were going through the process, they were very, very, very stickler about it. They were like, no, this isn't right. You have to do this, and you have to do it just this specific way. And so we're like, fuck. So we were like doing all this shit to file the papers so that they would serve him the fucking the court date for a restraining order. And so we're going through, they're like making sure we jump through every single hoop just exactly perfectly and all this shit. And so right as we get done and we're going over to the courthouse to turn in the papers, a cop pulls up and asks me if I am who I am and if she is who she is. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, well, these papers are, I'm serving you these papers. And we're like, what is this? Well, he had served papers to put a restraining order on me and Christina before we could even. And so then we're looking at the paperwork and they didn't make him do hardly shit. Like you can look at the paperwork, the way he wrote everything, it wasn't even done properly. And they let his paperwork go through. Meanwhile, on ours, we looked at ours, and ours, they made sure that we did everything, had to dot every I and cross every T. They wouldn't accept our papers at all. But then we looked at his because we got served them. And you look at him and his was just total shit. And they just let his go completely through. Very strange. Okay. So, anyways. So, I had to go through more to serve my papers than Christina because I needed the police report because I was the one that interacted with the police. And in order for me to fill my restraining order, I needed the police report about him being on the property and the whole event that took place. which was the day of his arrest. So I had to go to the police department and get the police report, whereas Christina didn't. So she got her paperwork filed before I did. And so I'm going to the police station, and I had to go like 2 or 3 times in 1 week. And they kept sending me away, like, we don't have it. I'm sorry, you have to come back tomorrow. Came back the next day, we still don't have it. So I'm like going to the, right? In the meantime, I'm going to the McDonald's, and I'm talking to them saying, look, I want to talk to a manager. Okay. Then the manager comes out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm Christina's friend. You know, she works here and shit. And, you know, she's been reporting to management that this guy has been stalking her and nobody's done anything. And now he's in jail. He's the guy that got arrested in your store. And I'm trying to find out what's going on. How come you guys never took her seriously when she was reporting to you that she was being stalked by this guy? And the one manager I was talking to, she's like, well, I totally understand. I agree with you. I'm not the manager of the store. They just send me to this store from another store when they need me. And so I totally agree with you, but you're going to have to talk to a different manager. So I'm like talking to the managers while I'm trying to get my police report. This is such a crazy fucking story, dude. So then I go back to the police station for the 3rd time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy who's trying to get the police report from that arrest with that guy Dale and McDonald's. And there's a woman standing on the other side of the counter. And I'm like saying, yeah, I'm trying to get that police report. And there's an officer happens to be standing next to her. And I'm not really paying attention to him. I just want to get the paperwork, right? And the officer's looking at me funny. And he goes, wait, he interjects. And he's like, wait, are you the guy that called the police about that guy Dale and blah, 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 and all this and that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to get the report because the police told me that directed me to get a restraining order against him. And he's like, okay, I need to talk to you outside. I'm like, okay. So I go outside, and me and this officer are talking. He's like, I'm the arresting officer. I'm the one that arrested him. And I'm like, really? And he says, yeah. And he's like, I want to tell you why we arrested him. And I'm like, okay. And then he says that the reason that they arrested him is because he had several sex offender warrants in other states, including failure to register as a sex offender in Arizona, and that he had one of the sex offender charges that he had a warrant for was attempting to solicit sex from a minor. And so when the officer told me that, something snapped inside of my brain. Like, I went from being pissed that this guy is really stalking this chick, and that her ex would be taking his side. Her ex, the father of her children, would be taking this guy's side. And I didn't even know that this is a sex offender, etc., etc. So when the officer is telling me this, something snapped in my head. Like something fucking snapped. And I just went completely lucid. And I just like looked at him. And it felt like my eyes were on fire. It felt like my fucking eyes were on fire. And I was like completely calm and lucid, and it felt like my eyes were like on fire, like some blue fire or some shit, dude. And then I told the officer about how McDonald's, she had been reporting to McDonald's that this guy was stalking her, and they never did jack shit. And she reported it to them for months. They never did anything. And I've been talking to the 2 different managers, and they're not really responsive. And the officer goes, okay, look, here's a copy of the police report, and here's my business card. Go back to the McDonald's and talk to the general manager again and tell him everything that I told you. You can show him the police report, and you can give him my business card and tell him if he has any questions, he can call me. So I'm like, okay. And so then I'm fucking, dude, once I get in my vehicle, I'm just like, fuck. I'm like fucking yelling. I'm so fucking pissed, dude. I could fucking kill somebody. And so I'm driving back to the McDonald's, and then I'm waiting to talk to And so this is all these processes. There's all this crazy shit going on surrounding this girl. Then we get to the court date. This is a lot. I think the pre-event is going to be longer than the event. It is 3 years of stuff though. So, but this is all real. Dude, I'm not making this up. Like, you couldn't make this up. You think I could just make this shit up? This is all real. And I'm like everything is happening. So much shit is happening. Like, I can't even process it as fast as it's happening. You know? So not only these guys, we're talking about magic and sex magic and you know, DMT and giving their children DMT and festy hopping and all this weird like dynamics between him and her, and how she was just always acted totally frightened, like completely frightened of him, and he always acted like he was on the verge of, like, you know, punching her in her nose and all this stuff. And then his only friend is this stalker guy who's now, it turns out, he's a sex offender who's trying to solicit sex from minors and has warrants for it and stuff. And he's been taking this stalker's side and calling her crazy, and that she needs, and this guy, and not only that, this guy Dale would hang out while she's at McDonald's busting her ass, bringing home the bacon, because he's a fucking pussy, a low-life piece of shit pussy. Dale is over there hanging out with him and those two boys, and they're all isolated and alone out on the outskirts of the fucking town in the desert. And he's a fucking, he's a sex offender with a warrant for attempting to solicit sex from a minor. Like, we're talking, this shit is deep as fuck. Like, this is not good. And then the fucking woman at the food bank describing him as, this is the kind of guy you'd see on the front page of a newspaper, having killed his wife and his children and blown his own brains out. And then her telling me that him and her needed to separate because one of the two was going to end up killing the other person. So this is like real shit. This is fucking insane. And I'm like having to deal with this all by myself. So the nature of this town, because you know how I told you I built relations with upstanding people in the community and all this and that? Well, the nature of this town is 3 months during the year, there's 1 million people in this town. And then the rest of the 9 months of the year, there's like not even 1,000 people in this town. And that's the way this town is every year. During the winter, for 3 months, there's 1 million people in this town. Then for the rest of the months of the year, there's only like 1,000 people. So at this point, all my friends, reputable friends, they're all gone, except for maybe 1 or 2. But then, like, you know, the few that I do have that are here, they're like 80 years old or something. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you got, this town is full of tweakers and all kinds of insane shit going on in this town. And during the course of all of this, I've already talked with multiple people telling me that there is a witch cult in this town, which at the time I didn't think anything of it. And the reason I didn't think anything of it is because I thought they were referring to this kind of people. People that are into the New Age, Wicca, you know, the Wicca stuff that's all innocent and blah, blah, blah. So when they're telling me there's a witch cult in this town, I'm like, well, you know, whatever, you know, I don't know what to tell you, you know. I never would think that they're actually talking about like people that are really into like human sacrifice and torturing of animals and people. And so yeah, there's already been several people reporting to me that there is a witch cult in this town, like the Magic Circle out in the desert and all this shit. And I didn't know about the ley line over Quartzsite. So this just goes on and on and on, right? So anyways, so now I have to go to court with this sex offender guy. I mean, Chomo or wherever, I don't know, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube or not. So we end up in court. Okay. Now I prepared. And she didn't. And I'm like telling her, dude, you need to prepare, man. I already have enough of my shit to do. I can't do your shit for you, but you really need to fucking take care of your business on this, because this ain't no fucking joke. And so, and she's just like on top of being like she's just this traumatized person. She's also like she's hardly capable of anything. She's like mostly incapable, and it's really starting to drive me nuts. Like, I can't do everything for this girl. I can't do everything for you. You have to start standing up and doing shit. You know, we're talking about serious shit. This is serious shit, dude. And so, but I already have enough of my own shit. Like, I have to put my case together and everything, because there are two separate cases, mine and hers. And so I slam dunked it, because I know so many people in the community that are upstanding people in the community. Like, I got testimony from all of them. And basically what I got testimony from the general manager at McDonald's. Once I showed him the police report and gave him the cop's business card and told him he could call the cop, then all of a sudden now he's my ally. Before that, he just treated me like I'm just some schmuck, right? So I got a letter from him, a certified letter saying that yes, this guy Dale was like spreading all these lies, or saying all this shit about how I'm a known drug dealer in Quartzsite, and all this stuff, right? And so I'm getting documentation from McDonald's that Dale is telling all these people that I'm a known drug dealer. And then what I did is I asked my friends in a text. I got like 10 of my closest friends that either live here or are here a lot of the year, that are known in the community. And I sent them a text saying, I want to ask you a question, just answer the question and I'll explain it later. And then the question in the text, I said, if somebody told you that I was a known drug dealer, what would your response be? And so I'm talking about like Vietnam vets, you know, instructors at nearby colleges, you know, people like this. And then they responded to the question is if somebody told them that I was a known drug dealer in this town, how would they respond? And so then they all texted back there what they would respond, what their responses would be. And so then I photocopied them, and I got copies of everything, and that was all evidence that I brought to the court. And then the judge, when we went into court, the judge wanted to do my case first, and then wanted me to go first. So I was like, okay. And so the first thing I submitted was the McDonald's statements from two managers at McDonald's stating that yes, Dale was telling them and a bunch of other people in the McDonald's that I am a known drug dealer in this town. And so then the judge reviewed it and was like, okay. And then my next evidence was all those statements of all those different people with their names and their phone numbers and their place of employment and everything. And she wanted me to read them. So I read the statements from McDonald's, and then I said, now I want to submit these. And she's like, okay. And she looked at them, and then she wanted me to read each one of those statements on the microphone out loud. And so I'm reading statement after statement of all these people who are saying, if somebody told me that this guy was a drug dealer, I would tell him, go suck a fucking dick. You're a fucking complete retard. I had like old school Vietnam vets that were saying crazy shit like that. But they were upstanding citizens in the community that people knew. So, and then I had like, you know, so every statement, and I had to read them all. And there was like 10 or 15 of them. And I read every single one of them. I'm like, these are people that live in this community. And and then I explained to the judge, I'm putting this there to illustrate that this guy is a liar, and everything that he is saying in his case to try to put a restraining order on me is all a lie. And so this is the first amount of evidence I am presenting to the court to show that this guy, he's a liar. He'll say anything. He's just a liar. And so I slam fucking dumped right in from the fucking first minute. When the judge is like all like boom, like, and the judge already knew. Dude, it was over. It was over, man. It was totally over. And then he tries to do his like defense, and the judge is is like getting pissed at him because he's talking out of turn, he's in and stuff and all that, and so she's constantly reprimanding him, whereas I'm totally professional, everything. And so it was a complete slam dunk. It was totally obvious this guy is a complete piece of shit, plus his criminal record. You know, he's got several sex offender warrants, all this shit. Like, he was stalking me. He was lying about the stalking. He was on the property. Everything that I described is really what happened. He's lying. Everything he's saying is nothing but a lie. And that was the truth. So then, okay, now we've got 20 minutes.